First hour, there he is. Man, Wren Baker, Director of Athletics at West Virginia, has been kind of a busy man. Even from the day that he arrived there, we like him, we know him, and proud of what he's accomplished. You have, look at you, you have like shrunk.
I have. I've been trying to behave myself a little bit. And the brisket is great food in West Virginia, but the brisket's not quite as hard to turn down in Texas.
Yeah, no. So Wren, you guys went for a reunion tour with Rich Rodriguez. There was certainly, like, just based on some of our viewers, there were some people like, never again. He left us, and I'm sure you had to deal with that. What is it like? Because that's a unique thing, bringing a coach back somewhere where they've been gone and gone for a pretty long time. Like, it doesn't seem like that long ago because there were iPhones back then, but that was like iPhone 2, and we're on like 16 iPhones now.
Yeah, so, I think for us, I tried to put the past aside for a little bit and just look at the resume, look at the experience, and look at what coach has been able to accomplish over the course of his career, and ultimately we feel like he's the best person in the program, and you did a fairly exhaustive search, and so I feel good about where we're at, and feel good about him coming back, and we've already seen a lot of people who maybe were, a little bit more trying to, they still had some bad feelings already. So I think that's, really, we've seen a big turnaround there, and people have really rallied behind. We're moving a lot of new tickets, seeing a lot of renewals, and so I think people are really excited about where we're at.
How much of a madhouse was that at the tail end of last week with McAfee and the introduction and just the whole scene? I mean, I think he even said it on Twitter maybe, but like West Virginia was the talk of college athletics there for a couple of days, and especially at the tail end of last week. So just what was that spotlight like and that excitement level?
It was very high. I mean, listen, everywhere Pat goes, he brings a massive crowd and a big party. And so, when we had kind of made the decision, I called Pat the night before we formally announced it. And so we announced that next morning on a Thursday morning. And so it was a Wednesday night. And I said, Pat, this is the direction we're going. And I talked to him a couple of times during the search. He loves West Virginia. And he goes, dude, I'd like to bring my show there. And then if you've ever talked to Pat, like, he does a vast majority of the things that go on with his show, all the way down to his dad drives his production truck. It is for a massive multimedia company, it's a low overhead because he does a lot of himself. So he started like walking through a bunch of ideas, and I was like, how about I get you in touch with Matt Wells on our staff so he can kind of help plan the details of this. But, Pat loves his alma mater. Loves his coach. He would have been warm and supportive and done everything he could to help us regardless. But I think he was really excited about Rich coming back. And, and Pat, he's a wonderful ambassador to have. I mean, there's not a bigger, mouthpiece, not a bigger platform in sports. And so that was a lot of buildup, a lot of hype. To be honest, I hadn't really processed doing a press conference in front of 4,000 people until you walk out there and you're answering questions from the media, which is, I've never struggled with that, but you're doing that in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people. That's a whole different experience. But I thought it turned out really, really well.
Wren, what was your conversation the first time you talked to Rich when you were in the search to find a replacement for Neil Brown? What was that like? What was said?
Yeah, I think for me going into it, back to the fans and there being a little bit of a divided house in terms of how he left, and so I tried to go into it and really go in with an open mind and be fair to him, be fair to our process, and be fair to the other candidates. And I was, but you're doing that and you're thinking, okay, as you're interviewing him, you're thinking, how will this play in the press conference? In both interviews, he started the interview process exactly how, if I was scripting something for him for a press conference, but he was speaking from the heart, and to be honest, was emotional a couple of times. I don't know that he ever thought that coming back here would be something that'd be on the radar for him. But to have a chance to come back to this program, to his home state, you guys know this because of being in and around the Big 12. I mean, we're unique. There's not another pro team. There's not another power conference team. Everybody's a Mountaineer fan. And so, for 17 years, I think he's come home to see family some and to see friends, but he hasn't really been able to feel like he could truly come back to his school, his alma mater, and enjoy anything. He had not seen the football facilities in 17 years. And so I think for him, it's more than just an opportunity to be at a power conference program. It's more than just being able to go back to a place that he had success before. It's about being able to come back and elevate the program in his home state and go out the way that he wants to go out after leading the program back to prominence. And so I think that gives him extra motivation. That's more motivation than an AD could ever give. And so I think it's going to be a great story, and one that'll be a compelling one for college football and college football fans to watch.
Do you sense a sense of maybe relief in Coach Rodriguez that he can come, because like a lot of times you don't get this opportunity to come back once you've left, and then especially since people were so mad because he was one of your own, do you sense that relief that he gets this opportunity to make it right with those fans who are still mad?
Yeah, so there was some excitement and probably relief when I called and offered him the job. But if you spent much time around Rich, his fire burns hot. So he very quickly turned to all the things that he needs to do to get the program going, hiring a staff, trying to shore up the roster, all of those things. And so I have not sensed a great sense of relief from him. I've sensed a great fire and passion and an energy. But I think for him, there was probably a short window of celebration there where he was excited to have the opportunity, and then quickly turned the page to what he needs to do to get our program competing at the level that we all want it to be. But I do think he's very grateful to have an opportunity to come back here, and I know his family is excited for him. They were all cousins and brothers here, and I made a joke in the press conference. He went to North Marion, and I don't know how many people's there, but there's been like 10,000 tell me they went to high school with him. So it's a much bigger school than what they list on their enrollment data when you look it up.
Wren, what's it like negotiating to hire a head coach now versus just a few years ago in terms of the priorities on the other side of the resources and things that you need to get in order? Obviously, NIL wasn't a thing 5 years ago. So is that now like a bulk of the conversation when you get into the details of what you have at your disposal, what you'll need, things like that? Just kind of, can you break down the percentages of what matters most nowadays when conducting a coaching search?
Yeah, I think anytime you're doing a search, you always want to take a look at the landscape nationally and in your conference, and make sure that you're giving your program the resources that match what your expectations are. And to be honest, in my 2 years here, we had already started doing that some, right? Because we wanted to make sure even the expectations that we have for Coach Brown, who in many, many ways did a terrific job and was a great leader for us, and somebody that I admire and respect a great deal. But, I think certainly in this new environment, being able to participate in revenue share and NIL opportunities, it is going to be exceedingly hard to be competitive consistently without having those tools in the toolkit. And so everything else still matters. The operating budget, the nutrition, the assistance pool, all of that still matters. But I do think that revenue share piece and the NIL opportunities has zoomed past everything, is probably the preeminent ingredient in making sure that you've got what it takes to be competitive.
I know this year West Virginia wasn't a part of it, like about 3/4 of the Big 12, if not more, when it comes to getting in the college football playoff. But from where you sit And the way you watch the standings being released and the lack of interest in BYU and even Arizona State and sometimes anyone else, what were your thoughts about the Big 12 and where they stand, not just among the committee, but among college football in general?
Yeah, I think the strength of the Big 12 is that it is a very, very balanced league. It's balanced in just the term. First, if you just start with the budgets, right? Like there's not this huge spread in budgets like a lot of other leagues have, and there's balance in the competitiveness of it. And if you look at whether it's Sagarin or SP plus or whatever metric Massey that you want to look at. The Big 12 is all really a highly competitive league, and you see that play out over the course of the year in the standings and in the results. And I think people are used to seeing those one or two teams at the top of a league that just dominate and are behemoths, and then that inflates probably the appreciation and expectation that everybody has for the entire league. And so I think that's something from a Big 12 standpoint we got to continue to make sure that we're pushing out and we're telling people is how balanced and competitive from top to bottom our league is, so that people understand we may not have those one or two teams at the top that just are traditional top 10 every year teams, but night in and night out, this league is as good as any of the other leagues in the country, and I believe that, and I think we'll prove that over time. But having sat in committee meetings before, as you guys know, I mean, I chaired the NIT committee. This belief that it's engineered to get certain teams in or a certain process, that's just not true. There's a lot of data. People evaluate that data differently. For instance, when I was on the NIT committee, I looked really heavy at non-conference scheduling because I was at North Texas and I knew we can't control our conference schedule, right? But what we can control is our non-conference schedule. So I would point to that all the time. The games that you can control, if you're in a power conference, you're going to talk about, well, look how tough this conference schedule is. And so every human being is shaped by their own experiences and their own perceptions and their own path that they've walked and that they've lived. And, when you get in those rooms, those different viewpoints affect how people see those things. But here's the thing, you're talking about those things and you're sharing those things. And it is an important part of the process. And people want to point the finger at individual committee members. Well, there's computers all over the country that could spit out analytics if that's the way we want to do it. But I think that human element and that human factor in having those discussions is an important part of the process.
Another day, another lawsuit ran yesterday with Diego Pavia and, the JUCO thing coming in. What do you think happens first? The NCAA agrees on expanded eligibility, whatever that means, whether it's 5 years to play 5 or JUCO counts for this much in those 5 to play 5 or whatever, or collective bargaining?
That's a great question. Selfishly, I kind of probably want to fast forward to collective bargaining because I feel like that's the only ending that results in us being able to have a system that we can be consistent with. I'm always reminded. So I spent a year as a middle school principal back in my hometown early in my career, and I tell people all the time, people love discipline until it's their kid, and that's what we've turned into in college athletics. We vote all these rules in, and everybody's for the rules until it affects their team or a player on their team, and then everybody wants to try and attack the rule, and it's us suing ourselves. I mean, at the end of the day, and it's lunacy, and now we've gotten to this place where we have no rules that we can enforce, and it's a very, very difficult situation. People want to point the blame at the NCAA. We are the NCAA. There's not a single rule on the books that the membership didn't vote for. Now, it's a large bureaucratic organization. It doesn't move quickly. Change is not affected quickly. Those are fair criticisms, but to point at a group of individuals who work in Indianapolis at the headquarters and act like it's their fault, that like it's not their fault, it's the system's fault. There's really only two paths: collective bargaining or some kind of congressional authority to set and legislate these rules. That's really the only two paths that we have forward. And I don't know that the congressional one. I don't know how realistic that is, but I do think there's a path with the collective bargaining process. Now that path has some issues too. Like employment is kind of tough, and we're spread across 50 states, and but I think we've got to start to wrap our mind around that might be the only solution.
Wren, with all that's going on, have we lost in any way the amateurism's gone, but have we lost the innocence of college athletics? Does that make sense? I know some people say, "Oh, screw that." It's about, but have we lost that in any particular ways with all the rulings, all the changes, and money, and coaches get a lot of money, but have we lost that?
Well, I think we've lost some elements of it that are unfortunate, yes. And I tell our donors this anytime I'm speaking. I get that a lot of the changes bother people. I feel like the best thing that college athletics brings in terms of value to the country, besides just sports entertainment, is leadership training. And, when it's just so easy to hit reset and hop in the portal and go to the next place because maybe you didn't like the way you were coached, or maybe you didn't play as much as you like, or you didn't like your role, or you don't want to try to beat this guy out. Maybe you feel like you got over recruited. I think we're losing opportunities to teach young people. I have two daughters; they're 13 and 10. I always tell them that 73 or 74% of female CEOs in this country were athletes, and I think those things. I think that's a causation, not correlation. I think you learn great leadership skills in athletics. You can learn it in other places too, but you learn how to take criticism and get better, take that feedback and make adjustments. You learn how to operate in the course of a team. You learn how to take instruction. You learn how to take corrective action when you don't do something right. And so those things still exist, and you can go to a practice and see it. I can walk into the gym today and watch our basketball team, and I'll see somebody that doesn't box out or doesn't rebound and gets corrected for it and gets it right, and then gets affirmation from their coaches and teammates. And those are important lessons in life. And I think there's declining opportunities for people to learn that kind of discipline. And so that worries me some. But those elements are still there. You just got to fight harder to keep it. It's just like coaches, used to, you had young people come in as high school students and they learned the culture from your older kids. And then by the time they were juniors and seniors, they were teaching the culture to the younger kids. Great coaches still are able to set a culture, but they're having to figure out different ways to do it because you don't have as many of those fourth and fifth year players who are culture ambassadors for you. You got to identify the influencers on your team quicker. And you got to make sure that you're doing more culture building every year, starting from kind of the ground level instead of just constantly building on it. And so, I think the coaches that you're seeing have success are coaches who understand that it's fluid, and you got to constantly reassess and change the way that you're doing things if you want to have the same impact year after year.
Wren Baker, Director of Athletics at West Virginia, with us on 365 Sports. Paul?
So now that you've hired a new football coach and you've got your basketball coach in place, how much smoother, and I'm not trying to jinx you, but 2023, 2024, was it like it was a roller coaster a little bit for you in the administrative area of doing the hardest thing the athletic director has to do is just pick the people to lead the programs. Now you've done that in the two big ones. How much smoother do you anticipate 2025 being that you can just assess and not have to think about all those other things?
I sure hope it's smoother. We definitely have had our fair share of change and adversity, but I think I always look at adversity as an opportunity, and I tell my two daughters all the time, one of life's greatest blessings is to have to go through hard things. And so, it doesn't feel that way when you're going through it, but that's when you really learn and grow relationships, learn to depend on people. And so, we've had our challenges since I arrived here, but it's given me an opportunity, I feel like, to get to know the state better, to get to know some of our key people better. And so I feel like it's been a blessing to have those opportunities, and I'm grateful for them and thankful for them. Although I would be happy to sail some smooth waters for a period of time here. That would be that'd be nice as well. But whatever 2025 brings, we're gonna try and make sure that we're ready for it, and that we meet the challenge, and that we do everything that we need to do for our student athletes to grow and excel. And to represent this institution in this state, and so that's what our focus is on, and that's what we're going to be focused on moving forward.
Wren, my last question, and we appreciate your time, is that you mentioned how unique Morgantown is, or Ames, or Manhattan, or even Lubbock and Waco and Stillwater, etc. How do you describe the passion of the West Virginia fan base, and how long did it take for you to get that pretty quickly? Because, man, we have a lot of viewers on our show that are West Virginia fans, a bunch of them. And it's no question, it is high-octane passion.
Yeah, it's different here than a lot of places, and everybody has passionate fans. But, I say this all the time. When I was in Texas, it didn't matter whether you were Baylor, UNT, TCU, Texas A&M. On Sunday, everybody was mad about the way the Cowboys play. So there's distractions. In West Virginia, there's no distraction. You play a game, and that game is the focus until the next game. And it took a little bit for me to get used to that. And even, living in Dallas-Fort Worth, even UNT has a ton of students, but by and large, when I left campus, I could leave the visibility of the job behind, and that's not the case here. And so it's unique and special in that way. I feel like, of the 2 million West Virginians, 1.5 million hang on every possession, and those other 500,000 are living with somebody hanging on every possession. So, I think that makes it really cool and really unique. But I think you want to be somewhere where people care, and somewhere where it means a lot. And here is not just important because we're trying to win games and trying to bring visibility to the university. I really feel like WVU athletics and certainly the football program and men's basketball program are the rest of the United States' view and window into this state. And this is a beautiful state with so many unbelievable things to do. Heather and I've loved living here. And really, it's a greater calling and a greater meaning to be able to make sure that everybody else in the country is aware of that. And WVU sports is a big part of doing that.
Man, thank you very much. New Year's Eve, West Virginia KU. Men's basketball, right? Wow. So you've got that on your future.
We do. It seems early to be playing such a high-level game, but I tell you what, Coach DeVries has done a great job here early, and he's had an injury here with Tucker, and we don't yet know what the final verdict of that's gonna be, but he's done a really good job early with this team, and they're the kind of team that West Virginians love. They play hard, they play for each other, they play for the school and the state. And so it's a great opportunity for us to have a big challenge early. Fog Allen is one of the great venues in all of sports. And certainly KU plays well there and has a great home court advantage, but it'll be a great early test for our team to be able to go and see what life in the Big 12 is like and what it's like to play on the road at a place like that.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Wren. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you.
Same to you all. Let's hope Santa brings Mac some new clothes instead of all those wild shirts that he wears.
Yeah. Garrett, mark that.
Oh, I got that.
Mark that. We have him on. We don't get him on like we used to. I think we've had you on twice since we've had him on. We get him at the end of January. We will absolutely play that back.
He's on the committee now, so it's like he works for the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
I can't talk about anything. I'm
He's in
the
a
committee.
bunker. Yeah.
So, he's one of my best friends and certainly a mentor and somebody I admire and respect. But I feel like he's just messing with all of us with some of this wardrobe sometimes. So I take a lot of pictures of him in Big 12 meetings and send to some of my friends that also work for him and say, we've got to do an intervention with our guys.
Thanks, man. Wren, appreciate it. Great stuff. Wren Baker, Director of Athletics at West Virginia, and we appreciate his time